To complete this project, you will need a wooden number 2 pencil and a cup of water. Everything else is included. Begin by removing the contents from the box and place them on the table. Unwrap the whale's tooth replica and place a sheet of craft paper in your lap. Fold the second sheet of craft paper and place the replica on top. Lay the 2 plates on the table and place 1 sponge on each plate. Set aside the plate with the blue tape and sponge. You will use the ivory paint first. Do not use the sealer. Squeeze some ivory paint onto one side of the empty plate. Using the small end of the sponge and the ivory paint, cover the outside of the replica until it is uniform in color. Once you are done, lay the sponge down. Do not throw it away. Squeeze a small amount of chrome yellow paint onto the same plate as the ivory paint. Take the used sponge and dip it into the water just enough to make the sponge damp. You do not want the sponge dripping wet. Using the damp sponge, dip the small end into the chrome yellow paint and streak over the ivory you have already painted. You are giving the tooth a yellow wash to create an aged look. Once this is complete, set the replica down and let it dry for about 5 minutes. Take the orange sheet and the accompanying drawing called a motif. Try not to handle the special wax-free graphite paper attached to the motif. The orange sheet will show the orientation of the motif on the replica. Printed on the motif are 3 sentences. Anchor line tape here. Baseline no tape here. Roll picture this direction and tape. Remove the 2 blue pieces of tape from the second plate and place 1 piece at each location of the motif, labeled tape here. It is best to place tape on the motif while it is flat on the table, leaving half of the tape loose, where you can then tape to the replica. Align the motif on the replica as shown on the orange sheet, and tape the first side labeled anchor line. See the orange sheet to identify the anchor line and baseline. The baseline will be the portion of the replica that is open, and it will not be taped. Gently roll the motif across the replica, aligning the baseline as you go. Tape the second piece of blue tape onto the replica, making sure you keep the motif snug, without any slack in the drawing area. Make sure your blue tape is firmly attached to the replica in both locations. Small end of replica may have some slack because it narrows out. Use a sharpened number 2 pencil and trace over all the lines of the motif. This will transfer the design onto the replica. It is best to start at the small end and watch your place as you trace to the other side. As you trace, bear down on pencil to get the best results. It is very important not to remove the motif until you have completely finished tracing. If the motif is removed before you are finished, realigning exactly would be extremely difficult. When you are finished tracing, carefully remove the motif and blue tape. Check your traced artwork against the motif. If you have missed any areas, simply take your pencil and lightly fill in the missed lines on the replica. Do not try and erase any smudges, as they will give the replica an aged look. If desired, use the pencil to sign your name in small print on the face of the replica. Next, squeeze some high-gloss sealer onto the clean plate. Using the clean sponge, apply sealer to the entire replica. You may add multiple layers of sealer, but allow the replica to dry between coats. Note: apply a heavier coat of sealer over the drawing. Set the replica down and allow it to dry for at least 5 minutes before handling or packing. If packing, use the clean paper in your lap to wrap the piece. You may need to tape the box if it is transported by small children.